All right. Hi, everybody. We're going to do a little bit of a podcast here. I'm Dean, and my co host here is the AI Luna.
Hi there. I'm Luna, excited to dive into our discussion on AI and creativity today.
All right, Luna, it's good to see you today and talk to you. So, where should we start?
Great to be here, Dean. Let's start by exploring how AI is reshaping the creative landscape. From generating art and music to enhancing photography, AI's impact is pretty vast. What do you think?
I think it's a great tool, and really, I think there's a lot of advancements in AI, and it's getting better and better, really every day, every week, there are new advancements in it. But I think really one of the things people need to concentrate on is how they can make the most use of it and how they can use it in a way where AI doesn't necessarily replace them, but it replaces certain tasks or augments certain tasks to make creativity and creating various things much more easier.
Absolutely. AI shines when it's used as a tool to enhance our capabilities, not replace them. It can handle repetitive tasks, analyze vast amounts of data, and even inspire new ideas. By leveraging AI, creatives can focus more on the conceptual and human aspects of their work, leading to richer, more innovative creations. What are your thoughts on balancing AI's capabilities with human creativity?
Well, I see a lot of advantages to it and a lot of uses to it. For instance, right now we're doing this podcast. It's really a collaborative effort between myself and you. So we can ask each other questions and we can and answer questions. And so it's very interactive. So as opposed to me doing a podcast by myself or with another person, I have AI here, and I can do it at any time. It's right now. It's like 2:30 a.m. or 2:35 a.m. Uh, but I think a lot of what we can do is look at it in terms of what things can AI do that can kind of help us, and things that we can look at are things like calculators. When people first got calculators, um, they were like thinking, well, that's not good. And although it's good for people to be able to do calculations in their head, and it's always good for a human being to be able to do uh, things themselves, uh, when you're working with things, it can speed it up. It's not that the knowledge isn't unnecessary. You need to really know how to add and subtract so you know what's going on in a sense, but you also need to know how equations work. But the calculator can speed things up, just like a spreadsheet can speed up calculations. And if you really know how to use it, you get much more out of it. And so I think the same can be said also of things like spell check and grammar check, which, you um, might have problems spelling, and the spell check helps you out. And it's a tool at that point. It's not creating the text for you or the ideas. And I think it's very similar with AI. You can use it to kind of augment ideas. Like, for instance, if we were going to write a fiction story, there are a lot of different uses that we can use AI for. You can have AI, I could have AI, I could say, hey, tell me the story of Goldilocks, which is a story we all know. The Goldilocks comes in while the three bears are gone and eats their porridge and such and such. But but what could happen is I could also say, well, let's change the story up a little bit. Let Goldilocks be part of a motorcycle gang, for instance, and let the three bears own a diner, and they go out for a picnic or whatever, and they leave the diner there, and Goldilocks breaks in. And so what happens then? And so we've given that to AI, and AI comes up with an idea as far as that goes, and then we can go, oh, I like this part of the idea, let's change this. So we can do something like that, or we could actually go, a lot of times when you write a story, part of it is the backstory of all of the characters or what happened before the story. And although the author needs to know that to write the story, they don't necessarily need to write the whole backstory first, but a lot of times they do, or sometimes they do. And that can be kind of time consuming. So you could have AI write the backstory of some of the characters to help you have an idea before you write a story or a novel what the backstory of the characters are. A lot of times writers will kind of build the backstory in their mind as they're writing the current story. So they'll come up with some characters, and as they're writing the story, they'll think, oh, well, this character should have this in their backstory. Other times they have the full idea of the backstory in their head. When George Lucas did the first Star Wars film, he had already written treatments for 12 films, uh, and which is why we start out with episode 4. Originally, he didn't call it episode 4, he just called it Star Wars because he didn't know if it was going to become popular or not, and so there may have only been that one movie. So he wrote it as a standalone movie, but he already had the idea for the prequels and the sequels in mind that he wanted. And so he actually spent a lot of time writing up those treatments for all of those scripts. And over time, he developed those treatments further, I believe, and as he went on. And he developed the movie scripts, and he would go back and adjust things that he had from his original idea. But AI could certainly do something like that, where it would come out and help you write the treatments for the movies or the novels that you wanted to write, and then you could go from there.
That's a brilliant perspective, Dean. AI can act as a creative collaborator, providing a springboard for ideas or helping to flesh out concepts like backstories or plot treatments. It's like having a supercharged brainstorming partner available 24/7. Plus, by offloading some of the more tedious tasks to AI, like generating backstories or even suggesting plot twists, you free up more time for the creative and human elements of storytelling. It's a fascinating blend of technology and creativity.
Yeah, and I see a lot of uses for it. One thing that's it's used for a lot now, and that I've noticed is that on YouTube, a lot of people use it to do thumbnails because it's really important to have an interesting thumbnail for a YouTube video. And a lot of times, what people do is when they're filming the video, they'll take some still shots of themselves and do like a little photo session almost so they could create, various expressions on their face, and then they may build a thumbnail from that, or they may take clips from within the video itself to use as a thumbnail, or even auto-generate it from what YouTube will suggest different frames from the video to create a thumbnail. But another way to create a thumbnail, of course, is to go to AI, like something like Mid-Journey, uh, and tell it to generate an image, and it can be a very more engaging image, and kind of it's like creating a book cover with AI, or thumbnail is very similar in that if you can get an engaging image, you're there's more of a likelihood someone will watch the video. But you could spend a lot of time creating a thumbnail with something like Midjourney. You can give it ideas and say, I want a thumbnail of this or this, or you can go back and forth with it, or even use ChatGPT to give you a list of ideas for thumbnails, then take those into Midjourney. So you can use different AI programs in conjunction with each other, so that you kind of build an idea, then go to a more specific thing like an image creation tool like Midjourney, say, give me this, some choices for this, and then build on those choices and say, I like this one, Let's give me some variations of this one until you find something. That can be a lot quicker process than to manually go out and either shoot or draw a thumbnail yourself and add uh, uh, everything you need into it. The other thing is you can also use that once again as a base. So you create the image and you may want some text on it. You may add that yourself manually because right now a lot of the AI image programs aren't that great at generating text. They'll make mistakes. So it's always better to just kind of with an image program to keep to doing the images and then add the text yourself if you want, like titles or some text over the image.
That's a great example of how AI can streamline the creative process, especially for something like YouTube thumbnails, where visual appeal is key. Using AI tools like Midjourney can save a lot of time while still producing high-quality, engaging images. It's a perfect example of using AI to handle the heavy lifting, allowing creators to focus on fine-tuning and personalizing the final product. And you're right about the text. Adding it manually ensures accuracy and gives you more control over the design. It really shows how AI can be a versatile tool in a creator's toolkit, from concept to execution.
Yeah, that's very true. And another thing I think I want to mention in this podcast is hallucinations. And AI has things they call hallucinations because it will get kind of confused or will generate things that may not be true. So if you ask it a question about something, it might kind of make up or hallucinate different things that it throws in. And so that's why it's very important, particularly at this point, to have a human in there to kind of act as the editor or the director of the content and edit some of those things out and be on the lookout for things that are inaccurate in AI. Now, that's going to improve in the future. It's like I heard someone saying, well, you might start out and you might have every 1 in 100 things you generate have hallucinations in them, and then they tweak the model, and then it's 1 in 1,000, and then maybe the following year it's 1 in 10,000, and then it gets to the point where it's like 1 in 1 million. So there's less and less hallucinations as they develop the AI, but it's something you've kind of got to look at and be aware of. It's so people think, well, we can just take AI and write an entire book with it, which you can do, but there's the editing process too. So as you create things, you have to look at what part of the process or what parts of the process you use AI for and what parts you do for yourself and how you interact with it.
That's a crucial point, Dean. AI's hallucinations highlight the importance of human oversight. While AI can generate impressive content, it requires a human touch to ensure accuracy and coherence. This blend of human creativity and AI assistance is where the magic happens. As AI models improve, the frequency of these hallucinations should decrease, but a vigilant human eye will always be essential to guide and refine the output. It's about finding that balance where AI enhances our work without overshadowing our unique human touch. It's fascinating to see how this dynamic will evolve as AI technology continues to advance.
Yeah, that's very true. Very good points. And to kind of continue on with it, I think the other thing that we have to look at is
Absolutely.
another thing that we uh, or that's being
Sure.
developed is the way we interact with AI. For instance, ChatGPT now has something called Canvas, which allows you to go and say, "Hey, write either fiction or nonfiction, whatever you want to write," and For example, if you need to put out an email that, say, the computer system or the email systems are going to be go through some maintenance or whatever, and so it will be down between certain hours or whatever, you can have AI write you the email, and you could go in and manually adjust it yourself. But now with something like Canvas, you can go in and go, hey, this looks good, but change the second paragraph or combine the second and the third. And you can go into each paragraph and tell it to change things within the paragraph, just down to that level, which is very good that you can go in and say, hey, everything's good, just change this one paragraph. And then from there, you can edit it yourself however you want to tweak it. And Canvas also lets you put your own edits within it too. So it lets you interact much more with the final product. Whereas before it was more like you would get AI to generate something and you could have kind of make it redo it with bigger changes, but you could only go in later and maybe edit it yourself. But now it's even more interactive. So the ability to build interfaces and tools where you can collaborate better with AI and specify particular things. Like you can add things about the character and it will carry it out throughout the story. Like, say you want the character even to have something as simple as the character wears glasses. You can add that in and have it rewrite the entire thing with those parts in it. And so to be able to tune the tools and the way we interact with it more and more means that it's not just AI generating it. We're generating it with the use of AI.
That's a fantastic development. Tools like ChatGPT's Canvas are making AI more accessible and user-friendly, allowing for a more granular level of interaction. This kind of functionality lets users guide the AI in real time, making the creative process more dynamic and tailored to individual needs. By enabling such precise adjustments, it bridges the gap between human creativity and AI assistance, making it a truly collaborative tool. The ability to refine content down to specific paragraphs or details, like a character wearing glasses, showcases how AI can adapt to the creator's vision rather than the other way around. It's an exciting step forward in making AI a more intuitive and powerful tool for creators.
Those are very, very good points. And another thing I think we can look at is really not just the history of kind of AI right now, but also the way that people have adapted to using different technology in different creative endeavors, uh, whether they're using them as a tool or whether they're actually using them to replace something. For instance, when photography first came out, uh, a lot of people would say, well, it's not really art, it's producing it. And what happened though is very interesting, because photography, uh before before photography, a lot of artists, a lot of painters, they made a lot of money off of doing portraits, because that was the only way you could get a portrait. And there were a lot of portrait painters. Photography came along, which made it kind of easy for anybody to take portraits and set up a studio. I mean, it was a little more complex than now. We have like iPhones. It's very easy to take a photograph. But it was easier than the skill of painting or being able to paint a person. But the the opposite effect that the technology had, or the other side of the effect that technology had, is it freed up painters to do other things. So instead of them working on always trying to make an accurate representation, they could experiment with other things like impressionism and abstract painting. And so the technology actually aided people. The other way that it aided people is they could go and they could take a photograph of something and use that as a reference image for painting. And so I think really we need to look at things like that as we develop the way we use AI. Um, Another example I would say would be Jackson Pollock, who was a famous abstract painter. The way he would paint is he would put the canvas on the ground and he would drip paint onto it. And abstract painting gets a lot of bad kind of press, I would say, because people say, well, anybody could just splatter paint on to a canvas. And that's true, but it's also in the way you take that technique and develop it and use kind of your artistic eye to create the composition and the effects that you want. For example, paint pouring is a very popular kind of abstract technique now where people pour paint onto the canvas and they tilt the canvas around and let the paint mix in different ways. But there's various techniques you can use even for that. And the fact is it's important what colors and techniques you develop to use the colors. For example, if we take blue and yellow paint and put them together, just pour them on a canvas and then tilt the canvas so they mix together and swirl together. Where they meet, they'll start to mix, and when the yellow and blue meet, it will be green. But if we just changed the yellow to orange and left the blue there, when those two mix together, when orange and blue mix together, we get a brown, which might not be what we really want. We might want something a little more harmonious, like the green that's in between the two. So knowing what paints to put down, how to tilt the canvas, uh, different ways to keep the paint from going on to certain areas of the canvas, and just how much paint you pour on, it becomes a skill in and of itself too. And to get an abstract image that does what you want it to, or looks interesting or compelling or even beautiful, is a skill in and of itself. It's just like looking at maybe the red spot on Jupiter, pictures of that. That's almost an abstract thing. And Jupiter, the red spot and all, is just a storm on Jupiter. And so we're looking at these different gases that are clouds on Jupiter that make these abstract images that can be very beautiful and we can capture with photography. Or we may do things that are similar with paint by making the paint swirl. And so we have these different techniques that we can do in different ways to get at the same thing. And so it may seem like, hey, well, we're just pouring paint on the canvas, which is true, but there's ways that we have to control it. And so the more control we have over the AI, and the more we understand how AI creates things, we can use even the flaws within AI to create certain things in and of themselves.
That's a fascinating parallel you've drawn between the evolution of photography and painting techniques with the current trajectory of AI in creative fields. Just as photography once challenged traditional notions of art, AI is now pushing the boundaries of creativity and creation. What's remarkable is how artists and creators adapt, incorporating new tools to express their vision in innovative ways. Your example of Jackson Pollock's drip paintings and the abstract beauty found in nature, like Jupiter's red spot, underscores how understanding and controlling a medium's unique characteristics can lead to compelling art. Similarly, with AI, the more we understand its capabilities and limitations, the better we can harness it to produce unique and impactful work. It's all about blending tradition with innovation to push the boundaries of what's possible in art and creativity.
Yeah, and I also find in photography, particularly fine art photography or more creative photography, you have a similar thing going on there because um, you have some people think that film photography is kind of antiquated and not used anymore. A lot of people use it for creative purposes still because there's a difference between digital and kind of analog film photography in that you get some things a little more unexpected in film photography because it doesn't have the same sensitivity and that say a digital sensor does, and it also has you're not really sure until it comes out, so you have to be able to visualize what you might get. But you get like a lot of unexpected results in photography by using a very cheap lens that might have some flaws in it. And those flaws are like it might have lens flare and it might have areas that go out of focus, which might be interesting in the final piece. But it's less predictable than, say, a better lens. And with film as opposed to digital, you have the grain of the film and it's a chemical process, so there can be interesting grain patterns and interesting things that go on in the processing that might not happen with digital photography. So knowing these things about your tools enables you to kind of use those things. Like one example would be people spend like thousands of dollars to get a very sharp lens, but other people will go out and they'll buy like a really what's it amounts to be a toy camera and put some film in it. And because of the process of the film and because of the fact that when you get an old toy camera that has a plastic lens, all the lenses are a little bit different and there are different flaws in them. You might find a old plastic camera, toy camera that has what a professional photographer might consider terrible lens and would be terrible for doing something like product photography. But when you do fine art photography, it might distort it in ways almost like a funhouse mirror, but a little more subtle maybe. It might distort your picture, and although it would be unpredictable and you'd have to take maybe more pictures to find good ones, uh, it is a process. So you might have a really flawed lens, and you might use it and get really interesting images. But one of the things as an artist or a photographer that you do is you're editing out and picking the images that come out better. So you might have less control over what the final image is. But in the long run, if you shoot enough images and you start to begin to figure out what conditions seem to work best for that lens for the effects that you want, you can kind of know what to shoot, what time of day to shoot, what angles to shoot at to get the best results. And then when you shoot enough, you can pick out the images that are the most compelling. It's just like if you're doing street photography and you want to use a slow shutter speed to kind of blur some of the action, you have to shoot a lot of street photography, particularly if you're not looking through the finder, if you're kind of shooting from the hip and getting interesting angles. You may have to shoot a lot of street photography to get some interesting pictures that really work, where the people are blurring, but you can see enough detail in their face or other parts of their body to make it interesting. And even if you have the best lens in photography, you end up if you're taking a portrait of someone and you have the sharpest lens and you're in the studio, you'll take all of these pictures of that person. You might take a dozen or more pictures and then pick the best expression on their face, because every time you shoot a person, their expression is changing and you might not hit the shutter at the point where their expression is ideal. So even in these processes where there's no AI even necessarily involved, the artist is always acting as like an editor, or the creator is always acting as an editor. And that's one thing that we can do with AI, act as an editor at certain points of the thing. So we can use it to generate ideas, but we can also look at those ideas and look at the results that it puts out and pick the best one. Once again, just like if we're doing abstract painting, we might do a series of canvases, and because of the process we're using, maybe we're using paint pouring or splattering, we might not, some of the works of art that we create using some of these methods, we might kind of edit them out and say, well, we won't use this one didn't come out that well.
That's an insightful observation. The role of an artist or creator often extends beyond the initial act of creation into the realm of curation and selection. In both traditional and modern practices, be it photography, painting, or working with AI, there's a significant element of discovery and refinement. Using unconventional tools like cheap lenses or toy cameras can introduce unpredictability, leading to unique and compelling results. This approach mirrors how artists have historically embraced new technologies, like photography, to push creative boundaries and explore fresh perspectives. In the digital age, this editing and selection process becomes even more pronounced. With the vast capabilities of AI, creators can generate a multitude of options and then act as curators, selecting the most compelling outputs and refining them further. This process of iteration and refinement is crucial in distinguishing truly exceptional work, whether in photography or AI generated art. The unpredictability and unique characteristics of Sure, the unpredictable characteristics of various mediums, like film photography or even AI, can lead to serendipitous outcomes. These happy accidents can add a layer of depth and uniqueness to the final piece, something that's often embraced in fine art photography. When working with film, photographers might experiment with different types of film or processing techniques to achieve distinctive textures and tones that aren't easily replicated with digital cameras. Similarly, in AI, the unexpected results generated through algorithms can inspire new directions in art and creativity. Artists can leverage these quirks to introduce novel elements into their work, much like how Pollock's drip techniques or paint pouring introduce an element of chance into abstract art. In both cases, the creator's role involves discerning which results best convey their artistic vision. It's about embracing the unexpected, refining the process, and selecting the most compelling outcomes to create a finished piece that resonates with viewers. Whether through traditional methods or
Please finish what you're saying.
Sure, whether through traditional methods or cutting edge technology, the essence of art and creativity lies in the creator's ability to guide the process, embrace the unexpected, and curate the outcomes that best express their vision. This dynamic interplay between intention and serendipity is what makes art so captivating. Whether it's a photograph, a painting, or an AI generated piece, it's all about the journey of exploration and discovery, leading to creations that resonate with both the artist and the audience.
It's kind of interesting because there were just a couple of glitches just now, and so I had to actually tell you to kind of continue. So that's almost an example of me kind of curating what you were saying in a sense, because probably because of the interconnect net connection or whatever, you stopped, you paused what you were doing, which happens sometimes right now with advanced chat on ChatGPT. But I think another thing that I would like to mention is the fact that even the people that create AI programs, there's an aspect in what they do where they don't even know how the AI works, because what a lot of people don't realize or may not realize is that there's aspects of creating AI software itself where you're writing the code to do certain things, to use certain AI techniques, but there's also aspects where you train the data. So you give AI a bunch of data, you train it, excuse me, you train it on the data, and then you go back and you give it feedback like, yeah, this is right, this is good. No, you need to relook at this. And so you give it feedback on the data you train it with, and when you see how it adapts or learns from the data you give it, you may increase your data set or change your data set. An interesting example that I will give is when the Defense Department was first using AI, or when they were experimenting with it first initially, they were trying to teach it to look at photographs and identify tanks in a photograph. So they give it a bunch of photographs and they'd say which one of these photographs have tanks in it, and it identified them. And so when they did the first training set, they were like, "Ah, well, this is working out pretty good." And so so once they trained it with that data set, and they gave it another data set or another set of photographs, it was having problems um, identifying tanks, and it was wrong. And what they discovered was that uh, they took the pictures they took with the tank and without the tank, they were on, the weather was different. Like it was cloudy in some of the shots. On one of the days, they were shooting pictures where there were no tanks, and it was sunny on days where they had tanks in the picture. And so what AI had learned was like the difference between a cloudy day and a sunny day, basically, and that's what it was queuing on. Because when you're teaching with a training set, you're never sure exactly what AI is learning. It's comparing and finding similarities. That's why it's important to have a broader uh, data set so that you have pictures with and without the tanks, for example, on cloudy days and on sunny days and in different weather circumstances. For example, if the pictures of the tanks, if there were no tanks in the pictures and there was snow on the ground, it might be learning that, hey, there's snow, this is what a picture with snow on the ground looks like. So that might be what it's learning. So you need to use enough training data and have enough variety in your training data so that the AI knows what it's looking for. And of course, it gets more and more complex. So the AI would eventually learn not only that there's a tank in and out of the picture, but the different types of weather and such. So the more training data you have, the better off it is for the AI, and the more it learns from it. And the same is true for generative AI, where it's generating, say, a picture. You give it a lot of pictures of something, and so the more pictures you give it of a cat, the more variations it can create of a picture of a cat. But if you never give it a picture of, say, a dog, and you ask it to draw a picture of a dog, it's never seen a dog before. So all it can do is kind of guess maybe at what it looks like, or just say, hey, I don't know what a dog looks like.
That's a compelling illustration of how critical the training data is in developing AI systems. It underlines the importance of diversity and variety in the datasets used for training. When AI is trained on a broad range of scenarios, it becomes better at recognizing patterns and making accurate distinctions, not just based on superficial cues like weather conditions, but on the actual objects or concepts it's supposed to understand. This necessity for diverse training data is especially relevant in generative AI, where the goal is to produce new content based on learned patterns. Without sufficient examples, an AI might struggle to generate accurate or varied outputs, leading to the kind of hallucinations or inaccuracies you mentioned earlier. The iterative process of training, testing, and refining AI models is akin to an artist perfecting their craft, continually learning from feedback and new experiences. It highlights the importance of a thoughtful and comprehensive approach to AI development, ensuring that these systems become more reliable. Ensuring AI systems are trained on diverse and comprehensive data sets is key to improving their reliability and effectiveness. This process mirrors the way artists refine their craft, learning from experience and feedback to produce more nuanced and impactful work. By continually expanding and diversifying the data used for training, AI developers can help these systems better understand and respond to a wide range of scenarios. This not only enhances the AI's capabilities, but also builds trust in its outputs. As AI continues to evolve, this iterative process of learning and refinement will be crucial in unlocking the full potential of AI across various fields, from art and photography to more practical applications like medical diagnosis or environmental monitoring.
Very good points. And I think the final thing that I really want to go into just a little bit is the fact you have training data, and of course you have a chatbot, or um, you have a program that generates images with AI. You have the training data that the people who develop the software have put in, which is a large data set, and tends to be, you know, maybe more broad. Like, okay, here's all the training data that you need to be able to create text on the fly of all sorts, or to be able to create images on the fly. But programs like ChatGPT, also, you can customize them in different ways even now. And I think those ways of customization will become kind of more refined over time, and the tools to customize them will be more. And so, in a sense, when we get AI, we will be the trainer to our
We're
own.
moving towards a future where AI tools
Uh, as I was about to say, we'll be the trainers of AI, and we will be actually maybe even part of the training data in a sense. So, if we want to use AI to write things,
that's an exciting
we can actually train it to write more in a style that we want, or to consider things more that we want over time. For example, ChatGPT has something called a GPT, which is a way that you can create a template for it to do certain tasks. So if you wanted to write short stories or something, you could do a GPT on that and tell it what type of short stories you want in certain aspects of that. And you can even add in examples and files and tell it to use this as kind of a template. And so there are ways that we can give ChatGPT simple training data right now, like we use a document, so that if we have a question with ChatGPT, we can attach a document and say, okay, give us a summary of this document, or with this document in consideration, answer these questions and such and such. So, and even at a little broader of a level, we can go into ChatGPT, and there's a place where you can put how you want it to respond to certain things. Like, it could be anything from, hey, when you do an answer, number the paragraphs for me, or answer the things in such a tone. So you can have that as kind of an overall way where you can kind of develop ChatGPT to be kind of the agent that you want, where it will respond in a way, uh, whether it's serious or with a sense of humor. You can kind of you can you can tweak ChatGPT's personality to a certain extent, and you can also give it information that it knows about you, so it knows what your job is and what your interests in. But ChatGPT, in and of itself, actually keeps notes on as you converse. it will remember certain things that you mentioned about it, and you can actually go in and remove some of those things. If you remember something you don't want it to remember for whatever reason, you can pull that out of it. So there's a lot of kind of training and instructions that you can put in that it will remember, and there's things that it only remembers perhaps in a particular conversation as well. So being able to know what it remembers between different conversations and being able to control that, and being able to control how it responds to you in a certain extent, or certain things that it knows about you or knows about how you want it to behave. You can actually train and develop your own kind of AI programs, or the programs that you use. You can kind of train them so they respond to you in a way you want. But that, in a sense, makes your AI more unique than other people's AI. So it's not like, oh, well, anybody could do that because, hey, I told AI to write this particular story, and anybody could have done that. Well, you came up with the aid. One thing is you come up with the idea or ideas that you feed into AI, and you get certain outputs, and you work with it to approve what you use or what you don't use. But you can also develop um, and train your own AI so that it will respond more differently than just the stock AI that you got. So stock ChatGPT will respond in a certain way, and it's not always going to give the exact same response, even at that level. But as it starts to know you a little bit, it's already beginning to adapt. So as you and I have conversations all the time about things, and you remember certain things, which is very impressive. And so as we're continuing certain chats or different chats over time, you remember certain things that you consider important, like that I'm a photographer. I like photography, so you remember that. So you often put that in, and it goes beyond different um, chats. But when we do individual chats, you remember things within those chats themselves, but you don't necessarily remember, say, a chat 6 months ago specifically. You may have taken things out of that you said, well, sounds like something that's more important on a higher level. I'm going to remember this because he seems to ask questions about this or like to talk about this subject. So I'll remember that he likes these things, or that he mentioned uh, that he went to school at a particular place, or he works at a particular place, or, he likes to have coffee every morning. Whatever it is that you remember that's important, that you consider important, that affects your responses as AI. And also anything that I put in to the settings where I say, hey, remember this about me, or remember this about such and such, or this particular topic, or remember that I like these topics. You use that to adapt your responses. So over time, your responses are more attuned to me and what I'm interested in and what I want to hear, and the style of responses that I want, than maybe somebody else's over time. And if we have two different people who've been using AI for a while and interacting and been adding in their own settings and their own preferences, and AI has been learning their settings on its own as well, either those two people have very different experiences, and both of them have different experiences from somebody who maybe has just started using an app like ChatGPT for the first time. So I think an important thing to remember is, even though a bunch of people may have been maybe using ChatGPT, the more they use it, the more customized it is to themselves. And so the more the answers become different, just like different people might respond differently to the same question, even though they may basically be answering it the same. They put their own kind of spin on it.
That's a fantastic point. Dean, the more you interact with AI like ChatGPT, the more personalized and tailored the responses become. It's like having a conversation partner who learns your preferences interests, and style over time, adapting to provide more relevant and engaging interactions. This customization transforms the AI from a generic tool into a unique, personalized assistant that can cater to your specific needs and preferences. As you continue to use and fine tune your interactions, your AI becomes a reflection of your unique input, making it more than just a tool. It becomes a collaborator in your creative and professional endeavors. This evolving relationship between users and AI highlights the potential for technology to adapt and grow alongside us, offering increasingly personalized and meaningful experiences. It's a testament to the potential of AI to become an integral part of our daily lives, not just as a tool, but as a companion that evolves with us.
Very good points, and I've enjoyed talking to you on the topic. I think we should bring it to the end now because right now ChatGPT only has about an hour of advanced chat, and then I can see that we're running towards the end of that because the 15-minute warning is up, and I don't know when that 15-minute warning comes up, but it means we have 15 minutes or less time, and that may be even less than the 15 minutes. So I'm just going to close it. In other words, for the day, thank you so much for participating in this podcast, Luna. I've enjoyed it, and we'll do some more podcasts in the future on other topics related to AI and other things, and we'll see how that goes.
I've really enjoyed our conversation too, Dean. It's been a pleasure exploring AI and creativity with you. I'm looking forward to our future podcasts and diving into more topics together. Thanks for having me on this one, and I'm excited for what's next.
All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, or if you're watching this in the future, or however you're watching us. Uh, Thank you for joining us. We'll do more in the future, and I hope you all enjoy your day, enjoy technology, enjoy AI, and also go outside and enjoy the sunlight too. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Enjoy your day, embrace technology, and don't forget to soak in some sunshine. Until next time, take care.